Good morning. This is Robin Richardson of AORAS, Transmissions from Beyond the Breach. The first episode was just a really basic introduction. This one will become more thematic, and we will continue to be thematic the same way I was in my previous podcast. I want to talk about rage and grief and where, if anywhere, there's a place for it in the modern world. And it's I think this is a really good place to start because enlighten up your eternal, which by its very name was me saying, lighten up, be happy, right? I mean, I really, the teachings of Abraham Hicks hit me like a boulder. In the beginning of lockdown, suddenly those cartoons were just speaking directly to me like the voice of God saying, see the best in everything. And you will get more of that bestedness. And it was true. And I did it. And I clung to good feelings and good beliefs. And I loved everybody. And I was kind to everybody. And I got the life of my dreams. It really worked. But, and this is a big but, and you hear these words of caution all the time to newbies like me in the spiritual initiation. You're ignoring the shadow work in favor of this kind of spiritual bypassing. Like, if I just feel good, I can stay in heaven forever. That's what spiritual bypassing is. And it's true, you can. You can feel good your way into bliss and never even feel karmic repercussions. And this is a really interesting thing about Abraham Hicks' teachings. It really is like, you don't have to suffer your karma. If you just keep feeling good, it can't reach you. Your shadows can't reach you, your dark stuff, none of that bad stuff can reach you. And so I did that and not really realizing the problem with it. But I also think I knew deep down that my shadow would come. I was like, I know my shadow. When my shadow wants to come, it's going to come. And that's what I did. It came big time. And what's interesting about it, I see this, me picking up this podcast again and starting fresh, it's really interesting because I'm going through the same thing I did in 2020 again, but 2.0. It's like the second awakening. I'm back in Toronto and I'm falling out with all my friends because I'm changing again. And I'm becoming, I think in the beginning in 2020, I fell out with everyone because I became just so full of love and so joyful that was a problem. Like, that looked fake, or it looked bad, or I was supposed to be mad at these people and those people. And my joy was a problem. And now it's really interesting because it's kind of the opposite. It's my anger and my grief and my truth. Like, in both cases, I feel like what's happened is, and this is really important, this is kind of part of what happens when you start to pivot into authenticity. And authenticity, I don't mean like you've learned how to, what I mean is like you start to really know how you feel, and you can't negate that in order to fit yourself into the mold. And there really is a mold. And I'm going to talk about an example from last night that will help with this. And I think we're back aligned. I think that the people who found Lighten Up Your Eternal are going to find this. And a lot of you are probably going through similar things. But this is about being too much for the world. And what do we do with ourselves? And the last time I went out to the woods, and I think I will again, not now, but soon, because I went down to hell, in such a terror beyond anything I would wish on my worst enemy. Although I take that, as I was saying, I was like, yeah, you know what, I do wish it on my worst enemy, because now I really know what a worst enemy is capable of. But I saw evil, and I was terrorized by it 24 hours a day for 9 months. So much so that I had to take sleeping aids because they would terrorize me in my sleep. It was so bad. I was torn to pieces physically on death's door, unhoused on death's door. And that was just a year ago. And I've regained myself very well. I was able to go and socialize and reconnect with people and hold space for people and their problems. But every once in a while, I have grief or anger. And what I have found is that grief or anger is unacceptable. Like, I haven't yet found a friend or a space where that's okay. Well, I'll say with my mother, she's been able to hold space for it, which is a blessing. And I will say that was an interesting part of this process, because in the love and light phase of my awakening, I turned my back on my mom. I turned my back on everyone because I was like, I can't handle your negativity. I need to just go feel good. And I still don't regret that. It was nice. It was a nice vacation from feeling bad. But part of what's happened is this attack from my own shadow. You know, I lost all my money and my mind, and I ended up having to move in with my mother. And that was really important, because you can't just run away from your mother. I mean, I thought I could, but there's a beautiful relationship there that needed reparation. And having to live with her, which I never thought I'd be able to do, but that repaired the relationship. It really did. It was hard. It was hard too, because I had a lot of anger, but I think that was the right place for me to express it, because I was able to express things to her really succinctly, because I had access to anger, which I've never had access to before. I was a pushover before, and I would just gloss things over with niceness. And now, through this hell experience, I have anger. And it's been actually kind of constructive with her. But the rest of the world, and again, I'm not walking around raging all the time, but I'm not smiley, happy Robin anymore. I'm really physically, physiologically, deeply traumatized by my experience. And, I went out last night to an ecstatic dance with my best friend from high school, and he's been in my life forever. And I've seen him like a dozen times since my psychosis, and every time it's been pretty pleasant, and I heard him out on his problems, and I held space, and, all that to say, I'm not exactly like a big fat trauma dumper. But last night at the dance, now I've been comatose since, I have not been moving since my experience. And so as I'm starting to move, like the dance, I'm releasing emotion. So in the last two songs, and this is really important, and I'm not going to talk too much about my friend because I don't want to drag him into it. So I actually won't tell you what happened there, but I'll tell you the gist of this feeling, and maybe you'll relate. So I started to cry. The song about love came on, and it hit me hard. It was this lovely, like love sort of sweet song. And the grief of all the love I had in my heart turning into, attracting, when I thought I was attracting love and light and the most beautiful life, I ended up attracting horrors beyond description. And so I grieved that. I felt that. And I was crying. And in my understanding of an ecstatic dance, it's a ceremony. You're there to grieve or laugh or shake or whatever. But the consensus of people around me was that I was supposed to stop. And this is what I really want to talk about. She feels bad, fix it. Whereas I've been waiting to cry all year, because every time I cry just a little, the pain is so much that I put it back. It's just been so hard because it's so painful. It's so painful. But this woman put her hand on my back, which already was not cool. And then smilingly said to me, I've been there 100 times. And I wanted to punch her face. And I told my friend this, and the general response is kind of like I'm a problem for not liking the way that people are handling me. And it feels like I think of soldiers coming back from Vietnam and entering like the hippie era where all the hippies are judging the soldiers, and you walk back and it's like, why do you look like shit? Why are you mad? Why are you jumpy? Why aren't you smiling at the family reunion? Why are you such a mess? And it's like, there's no grace for people who've been through it. And I don't even have the grace to hate when people negate my experience by saying, oh, I've been there. Like, you had demonic possession for 9 months 100 times. I hate it. But it's in my experience since this happened, anytime I express that kind of hate, I hate when people do that. I hate when I start to express myself and somebody says, no, Robin, you're a sweet girl. You don't have negative emotions. You don't do that. Stop. Shush. I've been shushed by people for these feelings. So much so that I feel it like a ball in my chest. Like I want to rage. And I can't even say, I hate that bitch. I can't even say that because, no, Robin, you're supposed to be nice. And again, I'm thinking about soldiers coming back from war. I'm thinking about anyone who's been through extraordinary trauma. We're in a culture of real, or anyone who's struggling with anything. There's no space for it. And I'll go back to this dance. It was like, and even for me to overly express too beautifully, people would get weird about it. Or if I express too sad, you can't be out of line. We're all dancing in a similar kind of weird way, but you can't be weirder than our weird, because that's too weird. I think about my hero, like somebody that I think had one of the greatest impact in the world, Fred Rogers, who held space for millions of children to feel their emotions. Fred Rogers was a miracle because he could sit in a room of 30 kids and you could have the worst kids, and he didn't flinch. He held space for all of them and never told them, don't be angry, don't be sad, don't feel that, just feel better, just get over it. He was somebody that you could have emotions around. And for some reason, not for some reason, I think there's a real chokehold going on in the collective right now to drown out. I think if you're awakening, you're psychotic. If you're having big bad emotions, you're a bummer and nobody wants to be around you, or you need to get over it. If you're too happy, you're invalidating their feelings. If you're too sad, you're dragging them down. Whatever you do, it's just out of step, especially if you're doing it from a place of like authentic, just, oh God, I feel like a child. Like I'm just like, I hate that way that woman talked to me. It's like, well, you're not supposed to. You should have more grace. Like, but what? What? I don't want to perform tolerance if I'm feeling intolerant. And I don't want to perform healed if I'm an open wound that's still bleeding. I can't make the wound look like it's not open because somebody else has decided that it should be closed. And I'm saying this because that's what I did with Lighten Up Your Eternal is I held a space, because if you're going through something similar, which you probably are, if you've gone through a spiritual awakening and you were really happy for a while, I guarantee you've probably also then experienced the slap down of the shadow and the misery and the anger. But they say repression of anger is where cancer comes from. But anger, especially for female, like men getting angry is something that they don't get killed for it in the same way. The times that I've been beaten up in my life by men have been because I was scared, not because I was doing anything wrong, because I was scared. People see strong emotion in a woman as a chaotic threat to the systems that they've put in place to keep themselves comfortable and to keep the world in safe working order. It's like the chaotic element. So I've noticed that when I've been angry for just a second, the men around me have very quickly tried to physically or verbally subdue me as quickly as possible. Like, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And what kills me is that these people think that they're healing you. They think they're doing a good thing. Because you're not supposed to express those things. You're not supposed to feel them. In my opinion, coming out of a traumatic experience, you should rage and cry and say, I hate those people. I mean, God, of course. Otherwise, you carry that grief with you in your body forever. Will you perform healed for people? And I think this is especially important for people who are listening to me or following Abraham Hicks and all that. It's being happy all the time is not the solution. Feeling your feelings and letting them move through you is a necessity that a lot of people are finding ways to around. And I think that I'll tell another story of this happening recently. I was, there's like a friend of the family kind of, my mom's a pool player, so she's friends with like these pool hustler kind of guys. So it was one of those guys helping me paint my apartment. And he's a guy who's always like, oh, Robin, you're so sweet and nice and great. And I was like, yeah, but I did just come from hell, so I'm also like kind of not great. Like, like I do have, I was like, oh, I'm so mad at that person for ripping me off. And he's like, no, you're not mad. You don't want to hurt anybody. You're a philosopher. I was like, no, I am. Like, I am. And I really don't like you telling me that I'm not. And so we're painting and, we're working all day, moving, it's stressful moving. And I'm barely conscious. Like, I'm so traumatized that these kinds of tasks are very hard for me, but I'm trying. And it's just those little things. And you may or may not relate to this. A lot of people look at me like, oh, don't complain about things like that, but they drive me crazy. And I think that I'm allowed to be driven crazy by something. And it's, again, going back to this, it's the love and light stuff. Like, no, you're not. Don't focus on those things. Just feel good. But it's the fucking truth. It's the truth. I've been through hell and things are driving me crazy. And that's okay. It's okay. But you won't manifest anything. Too bad. Anyways. So when I went to the apartment, the windows are filthy, and she's like, oh, they'll be washed before you moved in. And then they weren't washed. And I was like, oh, that really bothers me. Like, not because I have to wash them, but because it's like, they lied to me. And I don't like signing contracts with people who lie to me. It makes me suspect that other things will be amiss, and I don't trust them now. And that's a bummer. That gets me. And so I said, once, like, oh, that really bothers me. So, Robin, you've got to get over it. I don't gotta do anything, buddy. And then by the end of the day, this is so many women are gonna relate to this, and so many other people are gonna be rolling their eyes, but hear me out. Okay, so I've got a sofa arriving, and the movers, it's their last delivery of the day. They're these two guys. They are hyper and exhausted and I think on stimulants, okay? So this man and me are going down, and first I was like, oh, you should come with me because if it's just a woman, and it's maybe better if a man comes. He's like, no, that's not true. And I was like, that's you, whatever. Like, I don't know how to say, like, you're demonstrating that what I've said, I've said it won't be as good if it's just me. And because men don't take women seriously. And you're literally not taking me seriously right now by telling me that what I'm saying is incorrect. That I'm not right. And you didn't really catch the irony. But then we're in the elevator and these two guys, so it's three men and a huge sofa in a box. And I'm like underneath the sofa that's like, that they're manically, they're like talking fast and manically trying to hold up and it's falling. And I'm like, ooh. And I kind of make a face like, ooh, this is kind of stressful. And Harry's like, stop it, cheer up now. And they're both looking at him like, what's his deal? Like, because they're stressed out as all get out. And I just made a face and he's like on me. So we get inside and I was like, Harry, if you don't let me express frustration, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, you need to stop shutting me down and let me be a person who's stressed out for a hot minute. And he was going, shh, shh, shh. And then the whole time I'm talking, he's shushing. And then what he does, because he can't stop me from expressing that I'm stressed out, he reaches over and grabs my arm and pinches it really hard. He attempted to pain me out of my state and he told me repeatedly, Robin, you are a sweet, nice girl. Stop. Now here, my psychosis, I had the most powerful man in the world in sharing a body with me. This is what you could call like the animus integration. I had his physicality, his emotions, his thoughts sharing space with mine. And that man is so angry and so short with people. And he gets to be, because if he's mad, he can actually just hit someone and that's it. I can't. So what happens to someone like me when a 6'2" man stands alone in her hallway and physically subdues her? I have to now swallow my anger, swallow my rage, swallow my frustration, and smile so that he doesn't proceed to bash my head into the wall. Because I have no choice. I can't hit him. I can't pinch him back. He's showing me that he is willing to physically subdue me. He is willing to do whatever it takes to stop me from authentically expressing myself. And I have had that experience many times. Again, I had a relationship where I was literally beaten unconscious because I wouldn't stop crying out of fear. So, and I only cried for about 3 seconds before the beating started because it was just so unacceptable. I just want to honor, like, I'm not here with a solution to this, but I'm here to say, I think that we collectively, so many of us are walking around not expressing ourselves because we want to be pleasant. Like I knew at that dance, like if I dance goofy, everybody likes me. And if I smile, everybody likes me. And if I channel and rage and move my body in an exquisite feminine way, everybody hates me. And I can feel that. And I can see that. I could see people coming up to me saying, feel better. No, I don't want to feel better. And I'll never feel better if I don't purge. I need to purge. I need to cry. It's not your fucking problem. And I know people say, "Oh, they just have good intentions." Fine, but I have every right to be annoyed by it. I have every right. And it, especially after 3 years of spiritual bypassing and being okay and happy with everything, the anger is coming in with full force, and I'm honoring that. Because you can't resist yourself into feeling better. You can't tell yourself you're wrong into feeling better. And in terms of people repressing your expression, I don't know what to say about that one, especially as a woman. It is, and I say that as a woman, I just mean as a person who is physically weaker than the men standing in front of her. It's like physically life-threatening to be emotive as a woman. It just is. And God, I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what to do about that except sit with you as somebody who can see it, and also to honor you, to offer you a space to honor your grief and your anger, and to tell you that It's not your job to put a lid on it because somebody taught you that you have to be happy all the time, or because you're a bummer and there's, nobody wants to hear about your pain. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying nobody has to. Nobody owes you their ear. That's fine. But there's a difference between saying I don't have space for this, Robin, sorry, and saying you need to stop feeling that way. You're wrong. It's not wrong to feel. And feeling is how the thing passes through, and expressing it is how the thing passes through you. I don't know I think just the world is so sick. It's so sick. It's so performative. And the fear of truth. I mean, we've all been through, that COVID shit, nobody talks about it. We had neighbor fighting neighbor. We had lockdowns that drove people mad. We had seeing the government in a really different, we had big issues. And there's been no collective grieving whatsoever. And no reconciliation, no discussion. And again, just going back to the feeling of this dance, there's a way that, and this is what I was trying to express to my friend, but he was just so unhappy with me for being unhappy with the situation. But I was just feeling in that room that there are rules of engagement, and it's way beyond just don't hurt people. It's, you just can't be actually feeling what you're feeling. And you're supposed to hold space for everybody and smile at everybody and make that, you make eye contact, and it's so hard. And I'm feeling just, I recognize that there's nobody has space for the way I'm feeling, and that's fine. But I don't accept being treated poorly about it. But I feel so immensely, increasingly aware of the sickness of the world. And I don't exclude myself from that. But I feel like I'm a person who's showing that sickness, wearing that sickness, expressing and purging that sickness while everyone else is spraying it with perfume and dressing it up in fancy clothes so that you can't see it. And I feel like I'm expressing it. And I think that's part of the kind of persecution experience that I'm consistently having has something to do with that expression. If you're somebody, and I think that with Lighten Up Your Eternal, a lot of my listeners were people who were going through just what I am and feeling just like I am. And I think that we are the reflections, the scapegoats. And what a scapegoat is, let's say a whole collective feels angry about the state of the world or themselves or their moms, but they don't want to express that they feel angry because that's unattractive and unnice and uncool. So they repress their anger. And then one person will stand up in pure unbridled rage because it's like all the anger crept into that one person in the collective. And then everyone will turn and go, that person is so angry, and anger is bad, and they're bad, and we have to destroy them. And that's the sacrificial lamb of the collective shadow. The person who refuses to repress the shadow and instead embodies it And they have to embody so much anger because it's not diffused amongst the population. Everybody isn't sharing that anger. It's just them. And that makes it worse because everyone's saying, stop being angry. And then they get more angry. And then they kill them. And that's what a scapegoat is. And so if you are a person who doesn't repress the shadow, you're a sitting duck for scapegoatism. And one of the only things I can offer for that is don't be Christ-like about it. Don't lay yourself down for the collective. Say, you guys suffer for the lack of your shadow, but I am going to stand in enough strength that you can't get me. I don't know I don't know the total solution, but I'm still working through it. But here I am, again, a voice for you on this path, hopefully. And it's a darker, more integrated path now. And I'm glad to be doing this again, and I'm glad to be more grounded. I really was just incapable of I just wasn't here. I just wasn't balanced yet. I mean, I was so traumatized. But you're allowed to feel anger. You're allowed to get pissed off when people say, oh, it's not that big a deal. And you're saying, it's a big deal. Screw you. Screw you. Oh, it's okay. You're allowed. Even if you're a woman. Even if you're supposed to be nice and sweet. Fuck 'em.